Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Flagburg Cardfight Vanguard deck profile for post-Raging Flames against Emerald Storm. We got some new Flagburg support in the 7th Cardfight Vanguard booster set, along with the promo we got as the sneak preview promo. In set 6, we got additional promos, actually not promos, but more support for Flagburg in this booster set, and they all do help with the overall playstyle, even giving us one that prevents, the counterblasting for Flagburg to save on counterblasting where it's needed elsewhere, or just to continuously use Flagburg without having that need to do so. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter is Officer Cadet Chericles. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card, and then our grade 1 is Inroad Shooter. When it's rode upon by Ascendant's Assault, call this card to rearguard. And on rear, if your Vanguard is Flagship Dragon Flagburg or Ascendant's Assault, this unit gets Intercept and plus 2,000 power. Our grade 2 is Ascendant's Assault. You may reveal a Flagship Flagburg or Flagburg Dragon or Inroad Shooter from your hand for this cost. When this unit is rode upon, Soul Blast 1 other than this card, call this card to rear. And then also on this card on rear, when your other rearguard attacks a Vanguard, if your Vanguard is Flagship Dragon Flagburg Dragon, counterblast 1 and stand this unit. So you either have the option to Soul Blast for this card and then call this card to rear, or even just revealing the Flagburg in your hand. To do so, we don't run any additional Inroad Shooters, and this is the only copy of Ascendant's Assault we now run in the deck, since you can call it to rear and have it set up as one of your restanders to use, but we have plenty other options in the deck, so that's why we're only down to one copy of this card in the deck. And our go-to grade 3 Vanguard, which is Flagship Dragon Flagburg Dragon as our go-to boss. Additionally, with the ride deck, we are running 3 copies of this card in the main deck as well. When it attacks a Vanguard, counterblast 1 and perform all of the following according to the number of attacks you made this turn. If it's 3 or more, draw a card. 4 or more, your opponent chooses 2 rearguards and retire it. And if it's 5 or more, until the end of that battle, this unit gets plus 10,000 power. And when your opponent will call cards from their hand to the guard circle, they must call 3 or more at the same time, making it so their sentinels aren't really worth much, or they can even just go for their big trigger costs to put them down for the guard of this attack. So it's a heavily pressured Vanguard attack that makes use of taking out your opponent's rear guards while still providing cards in your hand for you to use. For some of the other grade 3s that we run in the deck, I'm also running 4 copies of Blue Artillery Dragon, Inlet Pulse Dragon. So when you have the Artillery Dragon on rearguard, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. If it was the first battle of this turn, and your Vanguard is Flagship Dragon Flagburg Dragon, Soul Blast 1, and stand this unit. So this is one of the cards that helps with the additional attack power, and also at the end of your turn, if the total number of attacks this turn was 4 or more, you can put this unit into your soul and draw a card. So you have draw power along with this card being able to provide soul power for you to use for some of your other cards that we use for soul blasting in this deck. It just helps as another restander. If you use this card and also your Ascendant's Assault for the power, having the first battle, you can then have the 5 attacks thanks to these 2 cards all together to use against your opponent. One of the other grade 3s that we run in the deck is also 4 copies of our Empyrean Blue Dragon, Shelling Cannon Dragon. On the back row center, rearguard at the beginning of your battle phase, if your Vanguard is Flagship Dragon, Flagburg Dragon, and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, counterblast 1 till the end of that battle. This unit can attack from the back row, and it gets plus 10,000 power. And from the back row center, if you would move or swap this unit during your main phase, you can also move it in the same row, giving you an option to move this card out of the back row center circle, so we can make room for some of the other grade 1s that we run. For example, Rousing Breath Dragon to help with the counterblast cost of our Flagburg. And then for the grade 2s, I would say the grade 2s are the lowest number we are running in the deck for units, and they could always be adjusted. I may run more of the new Tier Knight Erics on rearguard at the end of the battle. This unit attacked a Vanguard. If it is the second battle this turn, and you have a stood Vanguard with Flagburg in its card name, Soul Blast 1, stand this unit and it gets plus 5,000 to end of turn. So it's a good restander option, just being able to have that restand power. I was potentially thinking of running a 3rd copy. If I were to do so, I may drop the number of Shelling Cannon Dragon down to 3 for a 3rd copy of this card. And the other grade 2 I run is 2 copies of Aggress Blue Dragon. On rearguard once per turn, at the end of battle, this unit attacked a rearguard. If your Vanguard is Flagship Dragon Flagburg Dragon, Soul Blast 1 and stand this unit. So it's less restrictive since it doesn't have to be the 2nd attack for that battle. And when this one attacks, most of the time you have your first one either being your Inlet Pulse Dragon, or even going for your Ascendant's Assault to have it be rested so you could restand it again. And now moving on to the grade 1s, I run 3 copies of Rousing Breath Dragon from the back row center rear guard. During the 5th or more battle of this turn, the cost of the original auto abilities of your Vanguard with Flagburg and its card name is reduced by counterblast of 1. So then you don't have to pay any counterblast for the 5th attack being your Flagburg Dragon against your opponent. This will save you immensely for this play. That's why I like running 3 of this card, so you have it as an option. You're able to move your Shelling Cannon Dragon away from the back row center rear guard to place this unit down instead. With our other grade 1s being 4 copies of the new Billow Assault. If you were to keep the number of Shelling Cannon Dragon the same, you could always decrease the number of Billow Assault for a 3rd or 4th copy if you even wanted to take out one of the copies of Shelling Dragon and 1 copy of Billow Assault for 4 copies of Tier Knight Eric's. With Billow Assault on the rear guard once per turn, when the attack this unit boosted hits, if you have a stood Vanguard with Flagburg and its card name, you can stand this unit. So this just helps to provide additional boost power for your rear guard, so you at least have something that can be a more pressured hit against your opponent's Vanguard, giving an additional 8k power thanks to Billow Assault. It is a once per turn restand, but then you have that option available to you with cards like Inlet Pulse attacking for 13k, and then with the added 8k it can be 21, and then 21 right over again. With the last grade 1, aside from the Sentinel, being 4 copies of Prize Trident. When your other unit attacks, if it's the 5th battle this turn or more, put this into your soul and countercharge 1. So this card works kind of in tandem with Rousing Breath Dragon, just being able to provide an actual countercharge and soul buildup aside from you not having to pay the counterblast cost with Rousing Breath Dragon. I really do like it still in the deck as a 4-of count, because it can also just be used as the booster for one of your other units and then just be rested, and then being the 5th attack or more can go into the soul to provide that countercharge. And then for the Sentinels, I run 3 copies of Custodial Dragon and 1 copy of Elementaria Sanctitude, just for the Blitz order that can stop triple drives. And then the Sentinel that doesn't have to pay a discard cost if you have 1 or less cards in your hand for the Sentinel Guard. For our trigger lineup, I'm running 7 critical, 3 copies of the Abyss Temptation, and 4 copies of Dual Pressure Dragon. If you had the ability critical, you could always replace it for one of the 4-of counts. In this build, it doesn't really provide much for the soul buildup since we have other cards that can help with that, but if you have the ability trigger and you want to run it, you can do so quite easily, just replacing one of these 2 triggers here. And then for the next trigger, we run Draw Trigger, since fronts really don't provide much in this deck, since Flagburg is normally always the final attack during the turn. So 4 copies of Serene Maiden Lena, just the additional 5k shield. Over the fact that the critical provides a soul buildup, the 5k shields are always nice to use in the deck just as an additional guard option against your opponent. And for the heals, running 2 copies of Soul Repose Pixie and 1 copy of the Fairy Asher and the Alchemic Hedgehog for the additional guards against extra critical units and restood units. And our over trigger is the Bless Favor for the heal power, power to the front row, and additional critical that this card can provide also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It's a really awesome deck. I've always loved updating Flagburg since set 3, and it's been one of the Stoicheia decks that I've definitely loved using over the time. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.